Alright guys, so today we're going to be talking about two types of right triangles that are special. So these two triangles have special situations that make it easier to work with them. So we're definitely going to talk about those. The first type is a 45, 45, 90 triangle, and that's just referring to the angle measures. So it's got a 90-degree angle because it's a right triangle, and then the other two are both 45, which makes it an isosceles triangle. So whenever it's an isosceles triangle, we know that two angles are the same, of course the 45s, and that makes the two sides the same also. So two sides are equal because two angles are equal. It's an isosceles triangle. Alright, so here's the thing we know that's special about isosceles triangles. Okay, the hypotenuse has a length that is equal to the product not produce, the product of square root of 2 and the length of either leg. So essentially what that means down here is if this leg is 2, then we know the hypotenuse is 2 square root of 2. You just take the length of the leg and multiply it by the square root of 2, and that'll give you the hypotenuse. Okay, so there's little formulas right here for you guys to utilize. A leg equals the hypotenuse divided by the square root of 2. So if you're given the hypotenuse and you want to find the leg, then you would divide the hypotenuse by the square root of 2. The hypotenuse equals, just like I just showed you, the leg times the square root of 2. So if you want to know the hypotenuse, you just take the leg and multiply it by the square root of 2. Alright, so let's do a couple practice problems on this. These aren't too bad to start off with. Of course, you always start with the easy ones and get harder. So this first triangle right here, we see it's 90, 45, and 45. So oh, this is one of those special triangles. So what we know is that, first of all, the two legs, okay, let's make sure you identify your hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is the one across from 90. So this is your hypotenuse right here. The other two are your legs. Well, on a 45, 45 triangle, the legs are equal to each other. So if this leg is 7, then this leg is 7. So that's pretty easy. And then the hypotenuse, like we set up here in our formula, if we want to know the hypotenuse, we take the leg and multiply it by the square root of 2. So all we've got to do on this one is take the leg, which is 7, and multiply it by the square root of 2 to know what our hypotenuse is. So B equals 7 square root of 2, and A equals 7. Okay, let's look at number 2. This time they give you the hypotenuse. Alright, so the other formula says if you want to know the leg, then you need to take the hypotenuse and divide it by the square root of 2. So right here I'm going to take the hypotenuse, because see it's the one across from 90, so it's my hypotenuse. So I'm going to take it and divide it by the square root of 2. Alright, well, divided by square root of 2, square root of 2 divided by square root of 2 just cancels, and that leaves 4. So x equals 4, and then y is the same, right? Because those are your two legs, so y is also 4. All right, so that one's not too bad either, because your hypotenuse had a square root of 2, so the square root of 2 is just canceled. But we'll do some tougher ones where the square root on the hypotenuse isn't the square root of 2. All right, let's do some more. Okay, number 3. Okay, so right here's your hypotenuse, so we need to find that. But we're given the leg. Okay, well again, the legs are equal to each other, so y is also 3 square root of 2 over 2. And then in order to find the hypotenuse, you take whatever the leg is, and you multiply it by the square root of 2. Okay, we'll put it over 1. So on the top now I have 3 times square root of 2 times the square root of 2. You multiply the numbers on the inside of the square root. 2 times 2 is 4. And on the bottom you got 2 times 1. Well, what is the square root of 4? We know that's 2. So on the top you really got 3 times 2 over 2. And then the 2's cancel out, so you're just left with 3. Or you can think 3 times 2 is 6. And 6 divided by 2 is 3. So your hypotenuse on this one is 3. Okay, let's look at number 4. Okay, this one's a little tricky. So you're given the hypotenuse right here, And remember, our formula says if you want to know the leg and you've got the hypotenuse, divide the hypotenuse by the square root of 2. So we've got 16, and we're going to divide it by the square root of 2. Okay, well, nothing's going to cancel, so we've got to rationalize the denominator. So remember back a couple videos ago, we've got to multiply the bottom by the square root of 2 and the top by the square root of 2 to rationalize the denominator. Now on top we've got 16 square root of 2 over square root of 2 times square root of 2 is 2, because that'd be the square root of 4. Square root of 4 is 2. And then you just divide 16 divided by 2 is 8 square root of 2. So then that is going to be our leg, and of course the other leg is the same. Alright, so that's all for the 45, 45, 90. That's about as hard as it gets. So let's look now at the other special type of triangle, which can be a little bit tougher, but not that much. And this is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. So this is when you have a 90-degree angle, a 30-degree angle, and a 60-degree angle. Okay, so in a triangle whose angles are 30, 60, 90, hypotenuse has a length that's equal to twice the length of the shorter leg. Okay, so you can see that right here. So basically, if your short leg is 2, the hypotenuse, which is this side over here, is going to be 2 times that. So it would be 4. It would be twice as much. All right, and then the length of the longer leg, okay, this right here is your longer leg, is the product of square root of 3 and the length of the shorter side. So you just take the length of the shorter side, 2, and multiply it by the square root of 3. And that'll tell you the length of the long leg. All right, so here are 4 formulas that you can use. All right, so if you want to know the short leg and you're given the hypotenuse, you do this. If you want to know the short leg and you're given the long leg, do this. If you want to know the hypotenuse and you know the short leg, just multiply by 2. And if you want to know the long leg and you know the short leg, multiply the short leg by the square root of 3. Okay, so on these, basically what we really always want to try to do is find the short leg first, because everything is based off what the short leg is. Once we know the short leg, we can find the other things pretty simply. So the short leg is always opposite of your 30-degree angle, by the way. So we need to be able to identify what your short leg is. Usually you can just tell by looking at it, but for those of you that can't, the angles can tell you. Okay, so let's look at this first example. It says 1 and 2 says find the altitude of the equilateral triangle. Okay, so an altitude is when we just draw a line straight down. But now, since it's an equilateral triangle, we know that all 3 angles of the triangle are 60 degrees. So this is 60, this is 60, and the one up here is 60. But because we draw the altitude, it cuts it into a 30-degree angle and a 30-degree angle. Okay, so looking at this right part right here, okay, let's figure out now what the altitude is. Okay, the altitude, of course, is this. So we know on this right triangle, we know the hypotenuse. Right? Well, our formula up here tells us that if we know the hypotenuse and we want to find the short leg, if we want to find the short leg and we know the hypotenuse, we just take the hypotenuse and divide it by 2, and that'll tell us the short leg. So what is our hypotenuse? It's 8. Right, there's the hypotenuse. So we just take it and divide it by 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. That gives the short leg. And then once we know the short leg, to find the longer leg, long leg equals the square root of 3 times the short leg. So our long leg is going to be the square root of 3 times the short leg. So that's 4 times the square root of 3. All right, and now we know the altitude equals 4 square root of 3. All right, let's do the other one over here. So this is an equilateral triangle, so that means all the sides are the same, so that's 10 and 10. When you find the altitude, do the same thing. So if this is 10, this side up here is 10, that's my hypotenuse, right? My hypotenuse is 10. So just like the last one, we know the short leg has half of that, which is 5. And then the altitude is the short leg times the square root of 3. Exactly the same thing we did on the last one, except the hypotenuse was 10 this time instead of 8. Okay, let's try some tougher ones now. They always get tougher, right? Okay, so now we're going to find the missing variables, and they tell us this first triangle is equilateral. So if it's equilateral, we know this is 60, and this is 30. Okay, so your short side, again, is the one across from 30. Of course, your hypotenuse is across from 90. So we've got to find the short side first. But the only thing we know is our long leg. Okay, so if this is our long leg, and we want to know the short leg, what's the formula tell us to do? We want to know the short leg, and we know the long leg. So what we know is the long leg, we'll divide it by the square root of 3. And that'll tell us the short leg. Okay, so the long leg's 10 square root of 3, divided by the square root of 3. Well, this is nice. The square root of 3 just cancel, and that leaves us 10. Sweet. So the short side now we know is 10. And then our hypotenuse is always twice as much as the short leg. So if it's 2 times 10, the hypotenuse has to be 20. So then x equals 20. Now we're done. All right, let's look at the middle one. We've got the short side right here, right? This is the short leg. This is 30 degrees. Okay, here's your hypotenuse, the short side. So what we've got to do to find the hypotenuse is just multiply the short side by 2. Just double it. So I multiply that by 2. Outside number multiplies the outside number, so that makes it 6 square root of 2. So your hypotenuse is 6 square root of 2. And then to find your long leg, you take the short leg and multiply it by the square root of 3. Well, the numbers on the inside multiply, so the 3 stays outside, and the 2 and 3 on the inside multiply to give you 6. You can't really take the square root of 6, so that's your answer. 3 square root of 6 is y. Let's look at this last one. So far, they still haven't been too bad, so let's, hopefully this last one is easier. So we see this got to be our 30-degree angle. This is our hypotenuse, and the one across from 30, right, this is our short side. So we need to find the short side first. We're given the long leg. So when we give them the long leg and we want to find the short leg, we need to do divide by the square root of 3, right? Go ahead, circle up here. If you want to know the short leg and you give them the long leg, divide by the square root of 3. So take this long leg up here, 2 square root of 15, and divide by the square root of 3. Okay, so at this point we've got to rationalize the denominator. So we need to multiply the bottom by square root of 3 and the top by square root of 3. That gives us 2 square root of 45 over the square root of 9, which is 3. Now we need to simplify square root of 45. Well, square root of 45 is going to break down into square root of 9 times square root of 5, right? We want to figure out what's the biggest perfect square. That would be square root of 9. Square root of 9 is 3. And we have square root of 5. So we're going to replace the square root of 45 up here with 3 square root of 5. Okay, so we get 2 times 3 is 6 square root of 5 over 3. And then 6 and 3 divide to give us 2 square root of 5. So then that is our short side, 2 square root of 5. And then once we know the short side, we just double it to find the hypotenuse. So 2 times 2 square root of 5 is going to be 4 square root of 5. Right, you just do 2 times 2 square root of 5, which that equals 4 square root of 5. All right, so that's your hypotenuse, and then this was our short side. All right, so make sure that you just identify what your short side is on these, and find the short side first, then you can use it to find the length of the other missing side if you need to. All right, appreciate your all's time. Let me know if you have any questions, and it's time to practice.